Well, hello there, Malterry here, and the fabulous Miss Lucy. Miss Lucy, say hi to everybody. All right, usually I don't do serious videos, but today we're going to do a serious video. You know, I was in Walmart last night, and this person working at Walmart last night felt free to discuss with me why are there so many people getting food stamps, SNAP, you know what I mean? And, this is a good video because SNAP benefits may go away soon. But this is my personal history, my personal story. She was so outraged that so many people are getting government benefits. And, I'm not a political person, so don't post political things to me, okay? This is my personal story. All right, so number one, I believe the government is bloated. We can trim a little bit fat from the government. There's too many layers, but that's me. My personal experience, and this is why I'm like, boo to this guy. All right, so it was the 1970s, and I tell people all the time, get a job, be a plumber, okay? In the 70s, we moved to New Jersey, where I'm at now, fabulous New Jersey, and we were poor. Now, my dad was a Healy arc welder, and the 70s, oh my gosh, for those that remember it, it was up and down on the employment scale. So, my dad worked. Here's how it works. My dad worked for the union. He did heating, air conditioning, he did the welding. And he was union. And let's say they had a job, he worked the job, and then, it was slow construction times. Then he was basically unemployed. I don't think he could collect unemployment, but if he could, he would have. No, he was too proud to collect unemployment, except for the one time we were starving. But so what happens is once the job is done, and let's say the union has 500,000 people working on it, or 500 people. Let's go with 500 people, and only 100 people are on that job. Then you go to the bottom of the list, and you're basically unemployed for a long time. You work your way up the list. Yeah, I believe my dad was too proud to get unemployment until he wasn't. So you go to the bottom of the list, and then you work your way up. So you may be unemployed for 3 to 6 months, and then only work a couple of weeks. Now then, why would you do that? And if you got a job elsewhere, then you were no longer a union employee, and you couldn't be a scab, people that worked around the unions. That was a big no-no back then in the days. So, basically he did that. And, our food stamp benefits back in the day were you didn't get food stamps. They gave you cheese, they gave you bread, they gave you eggs. Remember that box O cheese? That's what we lived on for years and years and years. And thank God for those benefits. Oh my gosh. Being poor was something else. It really was. And, in the winter, it's freezing in New Jersey. It snows in New Jersey. We had no heat. I remember being in the same bedroom with my little sister, and we would sleep in one bed. We would find we wore coats, we wore heavy socks and everything. We would pile on extra coats on top of the bed, whatever clothing we would have, so we wouldn't freeze to death. That's what winter was like for us growing up. And then I remember the one time my dad did work. That's why I didn't vote in this election. Atlantic City was making a comeback, and some president, we're going to say, had some casinos down there in Atlantic City, and we're like, yay, my dad's working again. Oh my gosh, this is wonderful. We're going to eat. So, he worked, and then payroll wasn't being met. Over and over again. Payroll wasn't being met. And the job was done, and somebody filed bankruptcy, which means we didn't get paid again. We were starving again. So that's how I feel about someone in office. It's like when your family's starving and you depend on him, and then it was easier for him to file. And you can check this out. Check it out. Did he bankrupt back in the day? Yes, he did. And it nearly bankrupted my family. One of the things I did was join the military. Why? I was hungry. I wanted to eat. But so I do believe in SNAP benefits. Myself, I've been in shelters a lot. It's like in one of the shelters I was in, not my roommate, but a person that lived in the other room, her husband stabbed her. And, she went to the hospital, and then she was in the domestic violence shelter. And it takes at the time, it took 2 years to get on the housing list. So she got to live in her car for a while. Thank God she got some SNAP benefits. A lot of people I know are, they have broken bodies. Now, do I not say that there aren't people cheating the system? Of course there are people cheating the system. But those that really need it, I would never ever want anyone to live the childhood I lived, cold and hungry. That was my childhood. I don't know how yours was, but that's terrible. So I don't know what to say about the system, but there are people out there that are starving. There are children out there that are starving. You know, we had to make a lot of sacrifices growing up. I remember like Christmas, you know, I don't know if it was the VFW, you know, but one of those organizations, they would give out toys to the kids. I believe it was the VFW. And we'd go over there, we'd have a Christmas party, but they had a limit, like 2 toys per household. Well, when Dad had 5 kids, you made sacrifices, and my brothers got the toys. And, you know, I had to grow up early. I really did. So that's all I have to say about those SNAP benefits. There are people out there that are living paycheck to paycheck. I know my mom and dad did for many, many years. And let me tell you the ending of this story. Why was my dad so steadfast on staying in the union when it was such a sucky job? It wasn't a sucky job in the 60s. It was a great job. It was such a great job. We moved from the rat's nest that was Philadelphia, and he bought a beautiful house, a couple of acres in New Jersey with a swimming pool. So at one time we were doing really well, but we didn't see all the you know, stuff that happened in the 70s. It happened to us. But here's why he stuck with that crummy job. He knew that someday he was going to retire, and he only had 5 years retired before he died. But the benefits that are still helping my mom today as she's in the assisted living home. So thank God for that. You know, it's like, you know, people don't see the big picture there. The home that my mom's in costs well over $8,000 a month for all the care and attendance that she needs. And thank God she still has his pension and medical from that. You know, if not, she'd be a burden on the taxpayer. So, you know, maybe you invested a little in a family and you got a big payback in the end. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I just thought I'd share my point of view. I just couldn't believe how mean that woman was at Walmart. You know, some people truly, there is no way out of poverty for them. She's like, they can go to school or whatever. And it's like, that's great advice, but has nothing bad ever happened to you? You know, I mean, I've been handed a bunch of bad things in my life. And, you know, and at one time I was wealthy. I paid a lot of taxes. I know I did. But, you know, suppressing what I've been through in the military, that was not a good thing. I suppressed it for 40 years until I couldn't suppress it any longer. You know, it's like it all had to come out, and it did come out, and I'm happy. It's like peeling off a wound. And thank you, taxpayers, for supporting my lifestyle of living in a van as I heal. You know, it's so funny. A couple weeks ago, it's like part of my memory is getting better, and I'm so happy about that. You know, there's so many different types of memory, and this is why I get along so well with my mom right now, because I understand all the different parts. One part of memory is comparative memory. Now, you won't have a comparative memory if your short-term memory's shot, but I'm noticing that, you know, comparative memory is like if I see a face and then an hour later I see the same face, can I recall that face? And it's like, now I'm starting to. Little things are creeping back in. And I'm also using, as I calm down, I know I'm Terry in a hurry, but I'm trying to calm down. It's like I'm doing things like, as I drive around a city, I'm actually looking at the signs. Okay, this street is that. This, you know, this street has a name. This street has a name. So as I go back to it, I can remember it more. And I also have a journal book. I don't have it up front. Where am I stealth camping at? What resources are around here? So next year when I come back, I know a lot of people do that in their phone and everything. I am so old school, I don't do that. But yeah, that's going to help me a lot, because like last night I pulled into this Walmart, and this Walmart was surrounded by like this huge, all these shops all the way around it. It wasn't a freestanding Walmart. So I'm like, where do I park? Where do I stealth camp at? And, you know, I found a spot. So that book will help me in the long term, or yeah, if I have problems, where do I go for that? it'll help me long term. So anyhow, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody. And, you know, it's hard, you know, until you live in somebody else's shoes. You know, like my heart goes out to Kate, who her back is so busted, and it's like she constantly has to do stretching and wiggling and everything for her not to be in pain. Can you imagine her being a Walmart greeter? Wait, I gotta shake my sciatica. Anyhow, for those of you that are taxpayers, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it. Don't we, Miss Lucy? Yeah, I certainly do. And not everybody on the system is a bum, okay? We're not bums. Nope. We actually, you know, just in a side note, it's like, yeah, I've been saving my money. Yeah, I spend my money. I try to put it back in the system, and I try to support local businesses as best as I can. So anyhow, we will see you down the road. Thanks for hearing me out. Bye.